At TVC News, wherever the big news story is happening, we're geared up to break it. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Well, good morning and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folari. You know, there must be a problem. That's the second time in a row I've done this before mentioning my name. I assure you I have not forgotten my name. And if it's a manner of speech, you've got to get rid of it. Stamp it right out. Anyway, good morning to you. My guest this morning is Malaki Ugumadu, constitutional lawyer and past president CDHR, and the man that we call, for most things, legal. Thank you very much for coming on, Malaki.
Thank you. It's a privilege.
It's always our pleasure.
Thank you for the opportunity.
The serious business to talk about this morning is the EFCC and its leadership, the headship. As we know, Magu, I don't know if we should refer to him as the former chair of EFCC.
The suspended acting chairman.
Thank you. Trust a lawyer to put it in the proper perspective. The suspended acting chairman, that is an unfinished business to most of us, in the sense that there's an inquiry going on and we expect a pronouncement so we know one way or the other. But along the line, the latest news is that President Muhammadu Buhari yesterday asked the Senate to confirm Mr. Abdul Rashid Bawa as the substantive chairman of the EFCC, Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. Well, first of all, Malaki, most lawyers tend to know the people in these kind of organizations that they interact with. So I'm taking it for granted that you will know Mr. Rashid Bawa.
Sure, I know him. So my practice of law is so that I interface with most of the law enforcement agencies, no less the EFCC. We have had costs in the past to lend forces with the anti-corruption agencies in the country. My leadership of the foremost rights organization in Nigeria, the Committee for Defense of Human Rights, was such that we interfaced.
Okay.
Not just with from beginning.
From the very beginning. Now, one of the things that sticks out, it's unfortunate that I have to say this because being a Nigerian, it sticks out that he's considered a youngster at around 40. Okay, so there you go. Of course, we know that when we look around the world, it's a different story. You have people in their mid to late 30s, up to 40, taking positions of high responsibility. But as to the question, as to the issue of he's a 40-year-old, what do you think that the presidency is, no, never mind the presidency, the president is thinking of him as the next substantive chairman of EFCC if all goes well in the Senate?
In very many respects, this appointment is spectacular in the sense that it has taken away from projections what people would easily associate President Buhari with, i.e., looking in the generation of the old, relying more forcefully to persons whom he knew personally. And at 70-something, you would imagine that he wouldn't have direct interactions or knowledge of a 40-year-old
exactly, man. A virtual baby in arms,
now,
to him.
If you look at the history of EFCC, particularly the headship of EFCC, starting from Nuhu Ribadu. I think Nuhu Ribadu was the youngest.
Okay.
He was about 43 when he assumed office, a little older than this one. Farida was in 50s, Lamude 49, Magu also thereabout. So clearly, Bawa is the youngest that has been appointed into that office. For me, I think there is a sense in which the cry or the call for a more dynamic, more forceful.
When you say appointed, you meant nominated for that office?
Well, the language of the law is appointment. The appointment becomes effectual upon confirmation.
Okay.
Yes.
Upon confirmation.
Yes, yes.
Which hasn't happened yet.
Technically, you could say nomination, but the language of the law is appointment.
Okay.
Both the Constitution and Section 2, Subsection 3 of the Establishment Act, EFCC Establishment Act, is appointment. That appointment can only become effectual upon the confirmation of the Senate.
So it's virtually a done deal.
He has been appointed. In short, that appointment has been forwarded. The fact of that appointment has been forwarded to the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for confirmation. So it's a process. It is that the one has the power to appoint. That appointment is not conclusive until it gets the endorsement by way of confirmation of the Senate.
Just so we can continue with this story and with full understanding, does this also now mean that the presidency is not that much interested in the current investigation of the now suspended EFCC acting chair? Because the whole idea was that he was being investigated. Submissions findings would be submitted, whereupon we'd then know the next step. This has now happened, and I don't recall that the panel, the committee headed up by Justice
Ayo
Salami,
yes.
Has made any report yet.
No.
So what does that say in relation to that investigation in your thoughts?
It tells me that they've moved on.
They've moved on.
Yes, it tells me that the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has moved on with the EFCC project, including reconstituting the headship of that commission. It tells me that whatever comes out of the Ayo Salami investigation,
it's a dud.
It's for the record.
It's just for the record.
For the record.
Let me see, because we also have Larry Suraj. Okay. We have him remotely. Thank you very much for making time to join us, Larry. If you can hear us, what?
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay.
If you can hear me.
Sure. Okay. Right. So you probably heard, what Malaki has said about this whole matter. So I wanted to take your perspective as well. I wanted to, first of all, could you start from what this says about the ongoing investigation of the suspended acting chair now?
Yeah, I think this is actually a major challenge, not only for the suspended EFCC chairman, but also a major challenge for the EFCC itself as an institution and Nigeria's image at the international level and the whole fight against corruption. You can't just move on like that. Unfortunately,
but the presidency has.
Doesn't address the challenge.
Larry, you can't just move on like that. So say you. But the presidency clearly has.
No, I mean, it's going to come back to haunt not only just the presidency, but even the new young man that has just been appointed. Let us understand the fact that most of the things that Magu was accused of doing was predominantly or primarily because of the lack of a board in the EFCC. So I've assisted in getting or checkmating or guiding the EFCC chairman in his operations. The same thing is being repeated itself now because Bawa, a very brilliant chap, someone with institutional memory, someone who has been part of the EFCC from inception, someone who's gone through the rigors of the processes and also headed some of the zonal offices that understood the issues clearly. But now institutionally, how do you go through without also stepping on toes? Number one, how do you want to motivate Bawa? How do you want to reassure him that he should put his best at the job without minding whose else is God and not facing repercussion that Magu has just faced? This is a challenge that is going to haunt not only the EFCC, not only the work that would be done, but the government. Okay. There must be justice that must be shown to have been done in the case. And we want the situation to move on. We want things to happen. We want Magu to either be cleared or indicted. But the only thing that is just been shown, it is not only Magu that was suspended, mind you. The secretary was also confirmed by the Senate. It's part of those that have been suspended. That has not been cleared. Is it coming back? Is it not going back? I mean, these are very fundamental questions that actually should have been answered.
Okay,
we were waiting
one moment, Larry. Thank you very much, Larry. I'm going to come straight back to you. Thank you very much. Stay with us, please. Malaki, just looking at all of that and some of the implications of this action that Larry has highlighted.
The question you posed to me was, what do you think about? Then I gave you the answer. It is that I think he has moved on.
Yes.
But it doesn't stop there. How do you move on? What is the measure of this movement? To what extent can this movement effectively drive that institution without a proper foreclosure? Where are we as a country? Abruptly, the main agency driving your government as a government that rose to power on its claim to fight corruption, suddenly just became adopted. And all of the issues that became public knowledge or that were thrown into the public, we don't seem to know where that has ended. And like my friend Suraj did say, how will this affect the institution? Quite a young man, not just in age, but quite even in rank, even as a pioneer cadet officer. There are people serving in EFCC who are by far older than him.
Larry also highlighted that point.
Including the acting chairman, the present acting chairman, Mohamed Umar. So what will happen? But by far more important than the comments Larry made, is we've had a pattern in this EFCC in particular. Virtually all of them, were hounded out of office. In short, in the case of Nuhu, he was almost killed. We were all witnesses to all of this. And if you looked deeply into it, even superficially, you will find the very ugly hands of politics in all of them. You remember he was sent to Kuru, Nuhu goes to school at that old age.
Yes.
You come to Farida, you come to Lamude, Magu. So where the first challenge of whoever assumes that office is, how will I end up? Not how will I move the organization forward. So how much more can you do when your priority is not about dramatizing capacity along the line of the proficiencies and expertise that has been associated with this young man? How do I deal and handle this situation in such a way that my fate is not even worse than my predecessor? Knowing that constantly the common denominator is the politics of the appointment and removal.
Okay, here we are in Nigeria. I mentioned the fact that it's sort of part of us. We're referring to a 40-year-old as a young man, and it's perfectly understandable. This is us. And especially in relation to what we've been doing. Maybe that's a separate commentary that a 40-year-old has come up, never mind the other aspects of this particular conversation, but Larry referred to him as a young man. You referred to him as a young man. A lot of the writings that have surfaced since the announcement are also emphasizing his youth at 40.
Relatively, in relation to all we have
This
seen.
is us. This is us. Now, Larry, you hinted at it, and Malaki has expanded it a bit. The challenges of someone like him taking over. Now, here's my theory. Could it be that the presidency is minded to just in one fell swoop reform, take care of the EFCC? Because this appointment, I've just heard that there are people that are his seniors. Well, I don't know how that works. Maybe they have to go. Maybe all of those people have to go, and then you're starting with a brand new, virginally fresh organization with less encumbering baggage. That's my theory. What do you think of it?
Yeah, it's inevitable. So I am aware of, because Magu assumed office, and I think that was where the trend actually started. Magu assumed office as an assistant commissioner of police, and at that point there were deputy commissioners of police in the office who were still junior to Lamode, who was the commissioner of police at that time. And the deputy commissioners of police had no option than to resign because you can't actually sit there as a subordinate to your junior officer in rank. The appointment as a chairman is political. At the end of the day, there's still the professional hierarchy for some of them that are also kind of police officers. The other point that then comes to the case of Bawa is when you look at those who are his contemporary in the office, who are cadet officers, because this was part of the course one. So he's not likely to have any superior in that position presently, so to say. But that does not also apply to the police officers that are in the commission. So like Malaki rightly said, the current acting chairman is also a deputy commissioner of police. And that is a senior position to the lowest rank. The rank of Bawa as it is now is assumed to be that of equal to an assistant commissioner of police in the force. So it means all those who are deputy commissioner or above the rank of assistant commissioner of police would, by professional calling, would have to resign from that place. So now we are going to have a new, and this was the original idea and vision of people like Nuhu and other foundation members of the EFCC, and even the draft of the EFCC law. It was anticipated at some point that the cadet officers would have to take over from the police officers. It was a purpose where some of the guys were groomed up to this stage and then also strategically positioned. It is part of their own concept that from 15 years of the existence of the commission, which we should be looking at from 2020 to this, from 2004 to 2020, some of these guys would have been appropriately positioned to take over from the police or any other law enforcement agencies that are posted to the place to take it over. It is not about having external law enforcement agencies to take it over fully. But we don't want to look at isolated individual issues. We want to look at institutional issues. We want to look at the EFCC as an institution.
Indeed. And I'm going to come to that, Larry. Excuse me for interrupting you. We're going to come to that, Larry. Let me bring in Mr. George, who has called in from Ikeja. Good morning, Mr. George.
Good morning, Uncle Yori.
Thank
good
you for
morning to
calling
Malaki, and good morning to Mr. Larry Suraj.
Okay.
Good morning, Mr. George.
Uncle Yori, I want to say congratulations to the Attorney General and congratulations to the corrupt and corruption fight back in Nigeria with what has just happened. Uncle Yori, this is why you see that good people, they shun politics and appointments in government. Look at the effort that Mangu has put into that institution. With his era, we saw governors going to jail for the first time. I want to excuse the other presidents that came before this president. They didn't, corruption fighting wasn't in their mantra. But for this president, the main policy issue of his administration is to fight corruption. And the person that has been the champion of that fight, I've been calling your program to say that we have not seen a minister that shows anti-corruption traits in his functions. Marco was the only one that was known as the champion of that fight. Your Attorney General refused to get him confirmed. He instituted fictitious allegations against him. A probe was established. The report of the probe is not out. Nobody knows what were the findings of that report. All of a sudden, we are hearing that a new appointee has been sent to the Senate. I think the president should just remove that issue of anti-corruption from his agenda.
Okay,
corruption
I hear you, Mr. George. Thank you very
much.
much. I've got to interrupt you now, and thank you very much for calling, because I did get that whole presentation. And also, I need to say that, well, Mr. George, you know, a regular viewer and a regular contributor to our program, did offer some opinions in there that are exclusively his. But thank you very much for calling in, Mr. George. Really, if the presidency has now if the government has now caused the investigation of Magu, and before the conclusion of that investigation has come up with this idea, which you said, and I want to endorse, suggests to you that, you know, the presidency is moving on. I want to look at the role that EFCC is supposed to play. And that brings us to the end of Mr. George's presentation in there, which is that he would even now suggest that, can you just please, Mr. President, take anti-corruption out of, you know, whatever are the principles and the jobs that you say you want to see achieved?
You know, I think Mr. George was in heavy hearts when he made his submission. And that is to say that, it's not just about appointments. It is about the work climate of whoever finds himself in that position.
Okay.
No matter how much of the excitement that we can witness now, the question is, what is running through the mind of whoever is saddled with this responsibility now, considering that there is a history, there is a tradition, there is a pattern.
It's a very turbulent
and you can't talk about the day except from the morning. The morning shows the day. But make no mistake about it. I, as a lawyer, doesn't have any issue with the discretionary powers of the president to make the appointment he has made.
Sure.
The EFCC Act, the Economic and Financial Crimes Establishment Act 2004, vests the president with the power to make that appointment.
Indeed. And he has so done now.
And that act also talks about the role of the Senate in consummating that appointment, which is by way of confirmation. That much he has done. In short, if you want to stretch it further, you go look at what Section 11 of the Interpretation Act says. You will see that the combination of all of this creates no ambivalence as to the propriety of what has happened. But the investigation this morning goes beyond that appointment.
Okay, to actually the function of the EFCC.
And that institution as an agency, as a primus agency to drive the policy, the trust policy of the government.
Could I interrupt you, because Mr. Ade has called in from the UK for quite a while. Thank you very much, sir, for holding on.
You hold me for a long time. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. I apologize.
I remember Baba Yabo, our past president. He said, I dey laugh.
Former President Olusegun Obasanjo.
Yes, he said, I dey laugh. Anytime I'm coming to Nigeria, I want to buy Mr. George a nice present, because the man is full of wisdom. In a country where an Attorney General has issue with Magu, because Magu didn't play ball, and he wrote a petition about Magu. Justice Salami came, they investigate, we never saw the report. In a civilized country, we never hear anything, and they went and picked the same a replacement from the same Attorney General's state, Kebi, and to be the chairman. Is that anti-corruption? That is a super corruption government. I'm a APC.
Well, that's your opinion.
Mr. President.
That's your opinion. Mr. Ade,
from England.
you know how we do on the program.
I'm coming to Nigeria on your show. My opinion.
It's just your opinion.
We're in a democracy. This panic is what is killing Africa. You can't talk. You can't talk. Even in a democracy, you are afraid. Here, I can go to Downing Street here and even talk to my prime minister. Nothing will happen. So let's say all is spade is spade. It is wrong.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much for contributing that opinion. Quite forceful where you ended it. Larry, that's the interesting thing, because we get calls from all over the place. Mr. Ade in the UK, he's a regular contributor, as you might know. He says it is wrong. But Malaki has just explained to us how within the ambits of the law, absolutely nothing wrong with the whole move?
Right. No, I'm sure. I doubt if Malaki will say absolutely nothing wrong with the move.
Within the ambits of the law.
What he's just saying that so no,
he was speaking as a lawyer right there.
The president has actually exercised, saying the president has exercised his power to appoint.
Correct.
But everything in terms of the way that we've gone about, the president and the executive has gone about it, is actually not only morally wrong, it is also legally wrong according to some of the commitments that Nigeria has made to several other international agencies, including even the UN Convention Against Corruption, which they're very much aware of. Part of the key thing is the issue of independence and non-interference with the operations of the anti-corruption agencies, which is why I said, it is not just about individual action like this one that we've experienced. It is more about institutional issue.
Okay, he froze there. Do you take what he just offered, that he thinks that you were indeed, on course, being strictly legalistic, but that he feels that morally...
No, Larry understands what I was saying. Larry clearly understands that I was strictly talking about the exercise of the discretion to make appointment.
Exactly.
But that if you take that away,
so that looking at that,
if you take that away, you'll be confronted with all the preceding statements that I have made, including, of course, that even this appointment is sufficient to cause enough ripples right in the same commission.
Yeah.
Are you going to have a commission where every other person, beyond those who have just been appointed, will be looking over their shoulders in discharge of their work?
Yeah, but how about that?
Are you going to look at a commission that now listens to the body language of the appointing authorities, up to the Attorney General, as many people are saying? What about that independence expected of the commission to be able to deal hard on corruption? And I think this is where people are not ready to let go the effort of the Ibrahim Magu.
Okay, one moment, please.
We saw...
sorry for interrupting. Good morning, Mazi Okorafo.
Good morning, Sayodi. Good morning, Mr. Malaki. Good morning, Mr. Odile. You see, we thank God for today. Today I've been Ash Wednesday, the whole world, as Christians, the beginning of Lent. But the question now is this. This is the NSAS outcome. When the NSAS, 90% were youth. At least the young man coming on board now is a youth. 40 years. At least he's within that youth, a youthful exuberant. Now, what Nigerians are going to do now is to see how a youth is going to perform in that high position in terms of the recovery of Nigerian money. But we are looking at a situation whereby he will not borrow what was going on before. You see, TV court syndrome system that have been going on this. People will say everybody has a personal opinion, but we are not going to call him a saint for now. We have to allow him to start his job. By the time he leaves the office, we will know whether he's a saint or not.
Okay, thank you very much for calling in. Appreciate your call. Let me take that point to Larry. You heard that the first thing Mazi said was that this is a fallout of the whole NSAS thing, and where the youths are now being given, their desired or deserved position in our polity. What would be your comment to that?
No, I think that is just stretching it too far. This is not a response to any popular demand. I mean, this is
He says it fallout.
A response to the no. I mean, it's not absolutely. Let us not just attribute what is not connected. This can simply just be part of the recommendation of the Salami panel. No problem. But this has not been taken, like I said, to the expected level. Part of this would be for the government to
let me get you straight, Larry. I beg your pardon, Larry. I got to interrupt you. Let me get you straight. Did you just say that this, as far as you're concerned, is no more than part of the recommendations of the Salami panel? Because we're just saying that we haven't heard from them yet.
Yeah. No, that is part of the challenge, and this is where I said it is difficult to move on. It is also a credibility crisis. What was in the public domain was that the Salami panel also recommended that the government should look outside the police force in appointing the chairman for the EFCC. So you can simply say, okay, maybe this is one of the so-called favorable consideration in the Samelami panel. But beyond that is the fact that, like you have with the ICPC, for you to remove the chairman of the ICPC, you need the 2/3 majority of the Senate to do that. We need to have the same thing for the EFCC. That will guarantee some measure of independence and security for the chairman that has been appointed.
Okay, one moment, Larry. Beg your pardon, Larry. I got to beg your pardon because I want to bring on Abdul Razak calling in from ECOC GRA. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Quickly.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
The issue of reform of EFCC. This appointment has further destabilized the organization. I am a practitioner, and I'm close to some of those who are.
What do you mean by practitioner, sir?
I'm a legal practitioner.
Oh, legal practitioner. Okay.
I am close to those who are key foundation members, prosecutors that contributed to the success of this organization. They have been persecuted along, innocent guys have been persecuted along with Mago because of the two elements that are fighting between the Attorney General and Mago. And now these who are patriotic, but with due respect, because of the seeming. And these guys have been demoralized. Their patriotism has been dampened. They are suspended.
Okay, I think we got your point as well. Malaki is going back to something that both you gentlemen have also touched on in different ways about this is not in any way, shape or form helping the EFCC as an organization to be the best that it can be. I think both you gentlemen, yourself and Larry Suraj, have alluded to this difficulty and quite frankly, how are we going to navigate this particular hill? How are we going to resolve this issue? But you see, the president has done what he has done, and he wouldn't have done it, I'm imagining, he wouldn't have done it just as a sort of a spontaneous reaction. It would have been thought about. There's so many things that don't follow in the line of what we have been used to suggest that there would have been some thinking, a lot of thinking, I would like to say, that has gone into this whole matter. And Malaki, I don't know who did I relate with last. Was it Larry or was it Malaki before the phone call came in? But it's flowing. Quickly look at that particular aspect of it, if you would.
Well, I had alluded to it, that the appointment came by way of President exercising his discretionary powers. But how would that sit in the commission? You've had it said,
but if the commission is sort of wiped clean, so to speak, for this new boss, for the new boss man, and then he can choose who he will work with. I don't know if such a radical, that is a radical way to be thinking.
Well, how else will it happen? Because as it were, it's usually not the best of a work environment. Take for instance, the acting chairman now, Mahmoud Umar. Yes, the point has been made that Bawa belongs to Course 1 of the regular cadets who are EFCC trained professional officers. But as at this moment, the man sitting as the acting chairman is drawn from the police and is higher than Bawa in rank. Now, if he doesn't go, and he has superintended the affairs of EFCC since July or thereabout to now. So if he doesn't exit, how will he relate with Bawa? So that's why I say, how else will it happen? It's almost given that all of those, it's almost when you have maybe a major appointed as the minister.
Exactly. I mean, the other guy has to step aside.
There's no way to go around it. But the point which we seek to drive in is, as an institution, how has all of these helped to deepen? Because where we are now, what has become challenged is the claim that there is an anti-corruption fight. First is that institution go and do an audit of the mood, the morale, with all of these things happening. From July till now is quite a long time.
Indeed.
For people who are working.
Okay, one moment,
and
please.
It's a different thing to just come to office and go back. What is the output?
Let me bring on Ibrahim. Mr. Ibrahim in Kaduna, good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning, Uncle Yori.
Good morning, sir.
And also, my greeting goes to your guests over there.
Sure, thank you.
Thank God you touched on this very critical matter this morning. You see, EFCC as a body of fighting corruption is not something that we overlook downward, which is an exceptional body that will only drive this administration to the high level of what their mantras stand for Mr. President. So, another thing I want you to also understand is this. Thank God you brought in a constitutional lawyer, which really gives me an impression that, yes, this very man that is coming on board, all his effort is not going to be a mirage, as it were for the past chairman that were sacked unexpectedly. You see, yeah, there are many faults, and really, this is a young man that he is going to step on toe. But we want the government and some politicians with their body language to give him a chance to do what will sanitize the system of corruption in this country, so that this government will move forward and let us see the dividend of real democracy. You see, I was so impressed because of this man that is coming on board. Quite okay, you say that he's a pioneer cadet of this very body. Good and fine. At least we have graduated from using almost all the police officers. Good and fine. So let us see another clear way and system. Maybe this time around we will get it right.
Okay.
Because as a Nigerian, we love this country. We want things to come on the way that other countries have done and succeed. We want to succeed here so that Nigeria will be a very good nation for other African countries. Not even only Africa going to emulate, but the world at large. Thank you very much for letting me come. The name remains Ibrahim, calling from Kaduna. Bye.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ibrahim. Quite frankly, we've got to leave it here for now. This particular subject matter. We've heard plenty from both our contributors this morning, Larry Suraj, who joined us remotely, anti-corruption advocate, as well as our in-studio guest, Malaki Ugumadu, constitutional lawyer and past president of the CDHR. I want to thank you both, gentlemen, that for now, this is a subject I know both of you could handle without taking a breath, so to speak, for the next 2 hours, but we have to, limit ourselves to what we do have. Thank you both, gentlemen, for coming on.
Thank you.
Okay, stay with us, please. We'll take a break. We'll be right back, and we'll look at a different talking point.
At TVC News, wherever the big news story is happening, we're geared up to break it. TVC News, first with...
Okay, welcome back, and we've got to make a quick call to our contributor, our public health expert. We have a number of them, but we're talking this morning about Dr. Oluchi Ubani. Good morning, Dr. Ubani.
Good morning.
Thank you very much for making time yet again. We just thought we'd quickly check with you as regards updates on COVID-19. What your observation is, especially against the backdrop of they tell us that there's another strain. I don't know if this strain has been discovered in Nigeria, and what this portends for us. We've been managing ourselves, so to speak. God has been very, very kind. I feel most Nigerians will relate to that statement, that sentence that I just made. So how worried should we be about this new strain of COVID-19 in terms of looking at an update on the state of the pandemic?
Okay, thank you very much. Just like a virus, they do some. It has been discovered that there is gene mutation, changes are occurring in different African countries, and most people have speculated that there are different mutations. The mutation happening in the UK, in the US, is different from that happening here in Nigeria. Despite the outcome in China, there are new strains virus going on in different parts of the world. So in Nigeria, we are quite quite on the very, very specific. We are very, very afraid right now because if there's a new strain, we're talking about the first strain that came up. If there's a new strain, what cure do we have? What does it react to? What are the symptoms? What is going on? So I think awareness is going around in Nigeria, but more should be done. People shouldn't just relax. People should keep following the procedures and the protocols that has been set out. Because this new strain, that means there's a new way of action. There's a new mode of action. There's a new pathophysiology going on in the body. And we don't know how deadly is this, how chronic is this, how fast can it heal, how wide can it spread. So with the new strain and visitors coming in and people leaving, people going interacting with foreigners, I think we should take more precautions, more strategies to be put in place to stop and curb the spread. More can be done and more awareness. We shouldn't stop, we shouldn't relax. We should be more tighter and stricter with our restrictions.
Dr. Obani, do we get it correct when we report that? I think I've heard medical experts say that actually, in a sense, one shouldn't be surprised that this new strain that we're hearing about, that is what viruses do.
Yeah.
That this is what viruses do. They transform. What was that proper word you used? They transform themselves.
They mutate. Mutation. Yes, they mutate.
They mutate. This is what viruses do.
Yeah. So they interact. They keep interacting with your genes. Whatever they take the shape of, just to mutate. Just like the children that watch cartoons, they mutate. They take the form of an organism they come in contact with. Just like our body, anything that enters our body fights against it, whether it be drugs, whether it be whatever. So these viruses, when they go in, they imitate the organism that is present. They build themselves up and they try to imitate what the body is going through, the defense mechanism. It's just like getting just like when you mold something and you pour clay around it and it takes the shape, especially those that are big, and it takes the shape of whatever structure, and then when it dries up, it becomes that shape. Same thing with viruses. They mutate. When they interact with the environment, they understand and learn the environment and try to fit in. So they are not discovered. They try to fit in and function like that organism they have come in contact with. So they meet with our gene, they try to mutate. That's why the vaccines work in the same manner. The vaccines that are being given, we learn from how these viruses interact, and then we produce the vaccine. So the vaccines can in turn go and strengthen the immune system and fight against these viruses.
Which appears to be giving some in the West that have made some progress with their own vaccine program, cause for concern that the vaccine that was developed before the mutation that you're speaking about, they're concerned, they're worried about whether those that have been vaccinated will now be protected additionally from this new strain. I think they're referring to it as the UK strain, that kind of a thing. So this is part of the challenge that scientists are probably facing. Any word on that, whether those that have been vaccinated are still good in spite of the mutation of the vaccine?
No, just like having, let me say, the previous COVID-19, let me call it A, and then the new mutation is A and B. If the new mutation is A and B, and the COVID-19 vaccination you took was to protect you from A, to an extent that will still shield your body, because your body, the vaccines, your immune system will try to take the shape, understand the way this virus is operating, and prepare itself. So when such is coming, it won't attack, just like the experiences we have of the sudden death that occurred when the COVID-19 first strain came up. So there won't be so much death, because now we're already aware, we have an idea of how they function. So your body is a little bit immune, it won't be attacked suddenly. But that does not mean research is going on to find about this new strain and to also find way to prevent it from spreading.
Okay.
But it's not going to be as swift as it was when the first strain occurred, because there's sort of an immune or protection given to the body.
Now, Dr. Lucci, you've spoken about the immune system And Nigerians, most Nigerians, a lot of Nigerians, maybe I should just say a lot of Nigerians, are concentrating on doing all that they can to strengthen their immune system because they've heard the wisdom of some of the things that you've just said. That's one. Hold that if you will. I also want to use this opportunity to get your comments on ivermectin. That seems to be very, very, popular now, even though it was developed in the veterinary world. They say they've now found uses, and you know all about it. What do you think about the newfound love for ivermectin that originally wasn't developed for this, but they say it was for river blindness and all those kind of things? Even ivermectin as a company has come on, the manufacturing company has come out and said that the only use that they have in Africa or in anywhere in the world is for, river blindness and those kind of things. Yet, it seems to be very popular now as something of, what's that word? Preventative. Give me your comments, if you will, Dr. Oluchi, on this whole affair.
I will. So, okay. So, you have drugs. Drugs are combination. They have different components. They have different constituents that make up drugs. And a particular active ingredient is meant for a particular function. So a particular drug can have different functions, but there's a key function, there's a major role it has to play. Now, it is used to treat river blindness, which is also called onchocerciasis. And when people take it, just like when you take, if you're feeling feverish, or sometimes there's some kind of pain you'll be experiencing, you start experiencing fever. When you take pain relievers, anti-inflammatory drugs, the fever tends to be taken care of as well as the pain. But the major action is for pain, inflammation. Now, ivermectin is not a major drug. It's not a major drug for COVID-19. But it takes care of when taking it, it takes care of symptoms. It handles some symptoms that people experience. It's not a cure. Just like when you take, if you're having some infection, so it has some components that might react.
Yeah.
In the process of reacting to the body, it takes care of some symptoms.
Okay.
It's not a cure.
But how about as a preventative? How about as a I hear you, doctor. But how about as a preventative? Is it any good as a preventative?
You can't say it's a preventive medication because it has a dosage, it has a plan to show how efficacious it is and toxic it is. The medication is most times given once for a year. It's given once for a year. You treat yourself once a year for 365 days. So you can't take it for a preventive mechanism because it has its plan. It has a role it has to play. It has a physiology it flows through. Just like I explained, as it takes care of those symptoms, other symptoms that might be underlying because of its ingredients, people can see it as, it's preventing this. It's preventing certain issues. No, it's not preventing. You have to ask your medical practitioner for immune boosters to boost your immune system. Because no matter how good drugs are, I believe they are chemicals as well. So when you take them when they are not required, they serve as destructive mechanisms to the body.
I want to thank you very much, Dr. Oluchi Ubani. Thank you very, very much, and very, very interesting and informative information that you put out just now. I'm sure we'll pick up this conversation again, but I want to thank you very much, Dr. Oluchi Ubani, for making time to come on our program this morning. It's been most educative. Okay, so that's our program. I really don't have much more time, but to say, you heard the doctor. Please observe all of those protocols, anti-COVID-19 protocols. I'll see you tomorrow, God willing. I am Yori Falani. Bye-bye for now.
At TVC News, wherever the big news story is happening, we're geared up to break it. TVC News, first with breaking news.